Welcome to this detailed explanation of the unfolding conflict between Iran and the United States, including the major military operations that began on February 28, 2026. This video will take you step by step through the historical context, the events that have recently occurred, whether this marks the beginning of a world war, and what factors might have prevented such an escalation. Long before today's attacks, relations between Iran and the United States were strained for decades. After the 1979 Iranian Revolution, the two countries severed diplomatic ties. Over the years, disputes have centered on Iran's nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and influence across the Middle East. In 2018, the United States withdrew from the 2015 nuclear agreement, leading Iran to resume higher levels of uranium enrichment, further deepening mistrust between Washington and Tehran. In the years leading up to 2026, tensions escalated periodically through proxy conflicts in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, as well as attacks on shipping in the Gulf. Internally, Iran faced widespread protests beginning in late 2025 over economic collapse and political repression. By January 2026, the Iranian government implemented a nationwide internet blackout and used force to suppress dissent, leading to significant civilian casualties. These internal pressures coincided with increased U.S. military presence and preparation in the region. In the days leading up to the February 28 attacks, the United States and Iran held indirect negotiations in Europe, mediated by third parties. While diplomats reported some progress on technical points, no major breakthrough was achieved. The United States continued to demand strict limits on Iran's nuclear and missile programs, while Iran resisted binding restrictions. This failure to secure a diplomatic agreement occurred even as both sides issued increasingly stark warnings. On February 28, 2026, what many feared finally happened. The United States and Israel launched coordinated military strikes against Iran in a major operation. The Israeli government publicly labeled their action Operation Lion's Roar, while Washington referred to its role as part of Operation Epic Fury. This offensive targeted Iranian military facilities, command centers, missile sites, and other strategic infrastructure across Tehran and multiple cities. Explosions and airstrikes were reported widely, and President Trump described the campaign as major combat operations. Within hours, reports emerged of significant civilian casualties. One attack in southern Iran struck a school during class hours, killing dozens of children and injuring many more. Red Crescent officials confirmed that over 200 Iranians were killed and hundreds injured in the early phase of the operation, spanning more than 20 provinces. The joint strikes drew intense global criticism from countries like Russia, which condemned the actions as unprovoked aggression. Other governments expressed alarm at the escalating violence and urged immediate de-escalation. The United Nations held emergency discussions, and world leaders called for a ceasefire. Iran wasted no time in responding. Within hours, Iranian forces launched missiles and drones toward Israel and U.S. military bases throughout the Middle East. Targets included bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Iraq, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates. Iran's military leadership framed this as a justified response to the strikes on its territory and a defense of national sovereignty. These reprisals elevated the conflict from a bilateral crisis to a broader regional confrontation. Civilians in areas beyond Iran and Israel experienced evacuations and heightened alert states. Many around the world have asked, is this World War III? The honest answer is that while this conflict represents one of the most serious escalations in decades, it does not yet qualify as a full-scale world war. A traditional world war involves multiple major powers formally aligned in opposing blocs across continents. As of now, no such global alliance war has been declared. However, the risk of further expansion remains real. Major external powers like Russia, China, and NATO countries have strategic interests in the region, and continued escalation could draw them in through economic, military, or political obligations. Looking back, many analysts suggest that a credible, binding diplomatic deal with enforceable nuclear and missile restrictions, one that included sanctions, relief tied to verifiable compliance, might have reduced mistrust and forestalled this outbreak of violence. Earlier and more sustained negotiations could have given both sides a framework for compromise and prevented dramatic escalations. Today's conflict marks a dangerous escalation with severe human and geopolitical consequences. While not officially World War III, the situation remains volatile and unpredictable. Continued global diplomacy and pressure for de-escalation are crucial to prevent further loss of life and broader conflict. History is writing itself, and we hope it's not as dark a chapter as we are currently envisioning.